It's that time again. Yeah, it's the Buddy Martin Show. We're on this channel because I'm Buddy Martin. That's what the show's called. And it seems like women are taking over everywhere, especially in sports. And we thought, well, heck, let's just put Allie up on the screen. I mean, everybody else is taking over. Allie, what a week it's been. Unbelievable. We'll talk a lot about the two new superstars and the unbelievable results. And I know it's been just beyond anything I've ever expected. I know you too. So we will do this. We'll say stand by. Coming up, Ali Peek Wilbur, along with David Moulton and Scott Carter tonight, all on this program, on the same show. Can you believe it? Yes, it's happening. Only on the Buddy Martin Show. Stay tuned.
It's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Evening, welcome to the program. Tonight will be not as dominant the conversation about what's going on in women's sports, and Caitlin Clark has been on fire. Ali Peek Wilbur, welcome back to the program. Just right off the bat, how did that results of that basketball game, the quality of the game played, the results and the unbelievable rankings, the highest to beat everything on television in this game? I mean, I thought it would be big, but no idea. What is happening, Allie?
I mean, so that Iowa LSU game, I was watching social media. So we had the game on at the house. And I mean, we watched semi-regularly, I would say, women's college basketball. So, I mean, we're aware of the quality of basketball that's being played, even if the ratings aren't super high. But I was astounded to follow along on Twitter and Facebook and so many people saying, oh my gosh, this is such a good game. This is such good basketball being played. And, there are so many cool kind of stories to go along. I think obviously Iowa LSU is the headliner because of their rosters, but I mean, there's good basketball that was played all over the Elite Eight, right? Like that. I mean, Illinois, UConn, there's just Villanova, so many good, dominant women's basketball teams right now. And it's fun, right?
Beyond fun. And we're trying to figure out why. And I just go with the fact it's better. It's just a better game right now. And the spectacular play and the excellence of what we saw is just mind-boggling. And I think the other thing someone points out, the women are not taking the money and running and hopping around. Actually, they're staying, and this is what makes a difference. We get to know them a little bit. We get to understand who they are, and they've really kind of saved us from all our despair of the transfer portal. And it's just it's prime. It's great television. I mean, I can't wait to watch it Friday night. The second game is going to be the one to watch, right?
Yeah. I mean, the second game will be really an intense matchup. But as an SEC girl, obviously, I'm pulling for South Carolina in the first game.
Yeah.
It's fun basketball. I like that the final game is going to be on Sunday night too. That's kind of exciting because it's the weekend. You can be, different than these Monday night final games that we're used to on the men's side. And so, everything about the women's tournament this time around has been fun.
I even was watching for a minute of what they call the NIT, women's NIT, and I realized I was watching what it was. I thought this was no, it's not the Final Four. But I mean, I think so much. I mean, we even got to a discussion last night, and some people would find this absurd. How good are these girls? How good are they physically? LSU is. I mean, they're physically just giants. and strong. And we were asking, if I said to you 5 years ago, one day there'll be a women's basketball game, I'll blow everything off television, the ratings, you say, ha, 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 sure there will be. And
Right.
that was ridiculous 5 years ago. If I said to you, and this is what really gets people, 5 years from now there'll be a woman playing college football. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. We can't say anymore, can we?
No, we can't. We can't. The sky is the limit at this point. Glass ceilings are being broken everywhere, and that is exciting and cool.
And your girls are coming up at a great time too, by the way. So that's terrific stuff for you and being a sports mom, whatever. So here's the latest on the basketball. And by the way, we'll have in a moment be joined by David Moulton, Sweet and Sour. Sweet and Sour wants a little bit of time off tonight, so we're gonna let him do a shorter segment. And then we'll have Scott Carter. I want to talk to him about some of the things I feel and sense. And one thing I like about you, Ali, is that you're a good reporter, but you also have good instincts, and you use those instincts. Sometimes the quotes and the information they feed you doesn't add up, and it feels like you're just mouthing the words because it's all you have. But you have to say something's not right here. They call, does this pass the smell test?
Right.
What is right here? And I love that about you, that you do that. You use all of your instincts, and all the young reporters I've had over the years, I say, use everything you got, your eyes, your ears, your nose, touch, the feel, the instinct, everything you got to try to figure out, where your feet are planted. And I think that's important to stories. Right now in Gainesville, and I could be wrong, and I've always been kind of that way myself, is there something going on there in the last couple of weeks that feels like an uptick?
Yeah. I mean, so yes and no, right? I think spring brings optimism, right? And I think we watch how these guys are out there on the field. They're hyped. They're excited. They want to be there. We see some of these guys really look physically dominant over some of the other ones. I think, hope springs eternal in the spring, right? But we will have to see. But I will say, I think that these guys are still completely bought in. They say all of the right things. It seems like practice has gotten a tick faster this spring, which is nice to see, a tick more intense. I like that, but it's hard until you see them go against somebody else to really see what that improvement was. I think we thought these things last spring too. I think after the spring game, we're like, oh, they're going to be good. This is going to be good. And, we saw how last season turned out. So I'm not willing to claim, that we're going to win 10 games or anything like that. But I think that the optimism is there and the players are bought in. And I think that that's really important.
But when all you have is what is in front of you and what you see and hear and read and then feel, that's all we got, right? So having said that, I've got this bite I'm going to play from Graham Mertz. It's not the whole bite. I'll play it later. This is just a little bite from the interview on Fienbaum. Yes, David, I not only saw the Graham Mertz interview, but I got on the phone to my friend up there in Fienbaum and said, send me a bite. And so we've got a short bite. This is just the early part, and I want you to just tell me what you sense here. I'll play the rest of the bite a little later on. Check this out.
Nowadays, everybody always says, prove the haters wrong. And honestly, the theme for this team is prove each other right. I mean, we know what we got to do. We all want to win.
See and feel anything there?
Well, first of all, I love his perspective, his approach to this. It's not about the people not in the room. It's about the people that are in the room. And I think that you look at the hallmarks of pretty much any championship team. And listen, I'm not saying we're winning a championship, but any successful team, they care a heck of a lot more what the people inside the building think than they care what the people outside of the building think. And I will tell you, there were parts of the winter where I really did kind of feel like we were losing our way in terms of.
Yeah, I agree with you.
coaching staffs being far too worried about the noise that was outside the building, or far too concerned about controlling it, as opposed to worrying about what's going on inside the building and how they can fix those problems. So this is great to see that your leadership gets it, that they know what they think about each other, what they do for each other, what they believe about in each other is so much more important than what we write about or talk about or fans say or anything else. They control what they can control within the locker room. So I think that that's such a positive sign.
And the problem we had earlier, we talked about it. Why is it that nobody's speaking? Why isn't there anybody out there with the pom-poms talking about how great this team could be or something? And we didn't hear much of anything. They kind of put the kibosh on a lot of the player interviews, or some, but we didn't get, no one telling a story. There was no narrative that we kept hearing from somebody, and it seems as though Billy has brought the cards back into his chest and looked at them now and said, okay, I'm going to change this a little bit. And if you hear the comments made, like today or yesterday, I guess it was Billy Gonzalez said, Graham Mertz is one of the best football players I've ever seen. If you know Billy Gonzalez, he doesn't say things like that, ever.
No. And also, this is the guy that coached Percy Harvin.
Yeah, right, yeah. Unfortunately, got into a fight with him, too, by the way, which is why he left. But anyway, the bottom line is that there's things like that. You say, okay, that's a little unusual. You get that going on, and you start hearing things from Mertz. You hear things like, Devin Moore, a guy who's got terrific talent at corner, was hurt last year, says, I'm 100% healthy. I'm ready to turn it loose. That's what you want to hear out of your talented players, right? And so the first scrimmage came and went, and there were a few people who surfaced, and Billy, reportedly, I can't prove this, he had an off-the-record session with some reporters for about 5 minutes. In which he told some people some things, and they said they couldn't use them. But one of the person told me, he said, "We're going to be a really good football team." But that's stuff you like to hear, every now and then. So that's an uptick, right? I love that what I heard about what Graham Mertz telling somebody about how much he really loves. He tweeted how much he loves Ryan O'Hara, his quarterback coach, how he's going to be his ride and die guy, whatever. Yeah. We've always said, who's coaching the guy? Well, Ryan O'Hara obviously is coaching him.
Apparently, yeah.
So we're kind of getting a little flavor, of these guys now, which is what we want. Fran's had an excellent call today about the wide receivers, what's expected of them, and what Billy Gonzalez wants them to do. So I'm just saying, Ali, is one who kind of uses their instincts. I'm beginning to feel a little something. I'm not going to sell you, a truckload of optimism here and tell you they're going to win the SEC. But I wanted to see something to hang my hat on, and I'm beginning to feel a little something.
Yeah. Well, listen, them believing in themselves is the most important step, right? You gotta be comfortable with what you're bringing to the table, and it sounds like they are. And I'm excited for us to get a little bit of a glimpse into that in the spring game. I'm excited for them to see who they can grab from the portal after spring closes and go to work over the summer. And we've talked a lot on this show about the upcoming schedule and how daunting it is, but we've also said that part of what makes it daunting is where Florida is as a program right now, and that these are some big names on paper. But there are also a lot of programs on our schedule who are rebuilding, who are going to be starting a new quarterback, or they're getting a new coach, or both. And so, if Florida in year 3 of Billy Napier, so they know what's expected of them, they have Graham Mertz coming back for a second year, but it's his 5th year in college. If, those are recipes for success. They've just got to fill in a few of those pieces that have been missing. So, who knows?
Yeah, I was talking about, look at Georgia last year. It was a lay down. They were going to win everything. Well, guess what happened? Things didn't turn out that way.
Well, that's why we play the games, right?
That's exactly what I was going to say. That's why we play the games. You can't predict everything every year. Who knew Nick Saban was going to be gone? I mean, things happen.
Sure.
So someone said, I saw someone say, don't be so sure about UConn. Well, I mean, Yeah, I'd like to hear say that. Who's going to stop UConn? Well, this is what's interesting tonight as we speak. UConn is getting trouble getting a plane to fly from Kansas City and to UConn and to Arizona, and apparently they have an option to get a smaller plane from Cincinnati. That won't take off till 12:45 a.m., not land until 5 a.m.
Oh.
And the plane from Cincinnati would require a fuel stop because it's smaller. The Huskies going to get to go to Arizona with hours to spare before their Thursday media availability. So who can stop Huskies? Well, things like that could hurt you. Things happen, stuff. It isn't always like, okay, it's all smooth. And so,
Right.
I mean, the Huskies look like they ought to win it, but hey, that's why they play the games, right?
Yeah, that's why they play the games.
Yeah. So anyway, so just again, and I love Steve Spurrier for this because he always gave you optimism. Even when you thought maybe you didn't have it, he gave you some reason to hang in there and think about it. All right, or coming up in just a minute, we'll be talking to some of our guys. David Moulton will be here. Scott Carter. I don't know if you watch any baseball or not.
I'll watch a little bit.
Yeah, Jags hit one to the moon. Unbelievable. And the other thing it's going to say is I want you to help me out tonight. I want you to cleanse my soul and help me because we don't live in Gainesville, you and I. We have to report and write on things based on what we were told from friends when we see them. And I got kind of offended, I probably shouldn't have, on Tuesday morning on Shane's show, as Shane was asking me generically, well, what's going on? What do you think? I said, well, I was just talking off the top of my head, spring ball going on and obviously the women's basketball thing. And then they said, what else? I said, well, baseball is, I wish they wouldn't lose these midweek games. I know people say they don't count, but as a former player in Letterman in Florida, I kind of want to win those games. I don't like losing to FSU a doubleheader. I don't like losing to Ferry team. Well, it's not going to matter. Well, it does matter. And then the softball team, But I said, well, softball, it feels like they haven't quite got it clicking yet.
Yeah.
That they need to, and boy, did I get reamed out. What do you mean? They're 31-5. Look, I'm gauging them as a national champion contender here.
Sure.
And I expect them to be ranked 1, 2, or 3 or whatever. So, then I got ragged on. Somebody said, well, Buddy's out of touch. Well, maybe I am. I don't cover softball as a beat. I'm sorry. I do try to keep up with what's going on. And so it's different for you and I. We're not beat reporters.
Right.
But we are journalists, and we try. So help me out. If I get a blind spot in my eye, help me out, will you? Because I didn't see anything wrong with what I said.
I mean, I don't see anything wrong with it either. I mean, we do expect to win, right? That's what we do as fans. That's what, as beat writers, it's a little bit different because you are supposed to come at it as probably a little bit more objectively than we get to wear our fandom a little bit more than others. But, there's traditions in both the softball and the baseball program and really high expectations. And I think that that's a good thing. And I think that that's okay. And I think you can, it's okay to expect more.
I kind of want to say, Ali, that you and I have a little skin in the game.
Yeah, we do.
Because of our backgrounds and how long we've been involved in this process and the generations that you've been experiencing as a daughter and granddaughter and sister and whatever and wife. You've seen it. And I've seen it from another perspective a long time. And so when I say this, I kind of speak as family, but hey, it's okay. And I'm not always right, and I don't always know all the answers. I'm willing to learn, if someone will help me. But anyway, that was it. All right, let's do this. We're going to be expecting to hear from our good friend David Moulton. He's the sour part of the equation. On sweet and sour, I'm not the sweet part, by the way, just in case you wonder. So we'll listen to our friend, our sponsor, David. We'll talk to Jeffrey Meldon back. After that, maybe David will be here with Ali Peek Wilbur. Jeffrey Meldon. Jeffrey, you do a show where you get asked a lot of questions. I've got one for you right now, okay, regarding how do you know whether your case is being handled right and what to do about it. In medicine, you can get a second opinion if you're not satisfied with a doctor. doctor's opinion that they have. And do you have that in law? Can you do that with lawyers?
Yeah, buddy. As a matter of fact, we get quite a few calls from folks that have signed up, particularly with the big box law firms, that they do a hell of a good job of putting ads on TV, but after that, they don't really measure up to the way we try to create a client experience that's outstanding. And we're always willing to review a case and give a second opinion, just like with a doctor, because not all law firms are created equal.
I guess that's the normal thing. Just go to Moulton Law, Google it, and find out, and just give them a call. And like you say, if you come in, you get to see a Moulton. You don't get shuffled off to somebody else. You get to see a Moulton, and that's good to know, because a lot of people don't know how to do that stuff, like me. And maybe you can coach us through. So Moulton Law, they won't back down. They will take your questions about your case if you have a question.
Yes, whether it's a new case or an existing case, give us a call. We'd be glad to go over it with you. There's no charge to review your case with you. And a lot of times it makes good sense just to get a second opinion.
Good stuff from Moulton Law. They don't back down, but they will give you a second opinion. All right, thanks, Jeffrey. And by the way, we're going to play that entire 90-second bite that we got from Graham Mertz on the Paul Finebaum show. Thank you to the folks over Danny for sending me that bite. If you didn't hear it, I think you might want to. I draw some inferences, and you hear the whole thing. I want to hear your take on it, Ali. I sense a strength there. I sense some resolve, and I sense something that, together with what Billy Gonzalez said, he's one of the best football players I've ever seen. He didn't throw words around, and I'm just wondering, this guy is really good. You get a good quarterback, things can happen. So, meanwhile, we cannot keep from talking about the women's game, and Caitlin Clark, amazing what she did. We'll do that. I did not know this. Talking about the plane problems they're having, UConn getting to the regional. Here's a stat, if true, and I didn't know, UConn still has not gotten on a plane this postseason.
Crazy.
How could that happen?
How? Yeah.
Yeah, really. And then you got two ACC teams playing in California, whatever. But it was, so that's part of it. But nonetheless, All right. So we can't not talk about what happened, and I was so impressed, not just with the quality of basketball but the way that Caitlin Clark plays. Who wouldn't love that? Many people saying she's the best basketball player I've ever seen, period. I mean, people like Shane Matthews.
I know. There's people talking about how she would be a game changer in the NBA. I mean,
Well, and she was offered $5 million to play in that 3-man league, with those guys. Mm-hmm. But here's the other thing. What I love about her is her perspective. She is so good at staying focused on the moment. Listen to this quote. This is one people should hang up on their wall, not just for sports, but in life. She says, "It's not about last year. You worry too much about the past. Mm-hmm. You're going to get caught up in that. It's about being present, being where your feet are. Don't worry about being in the Final Four. Be in this moment. Be in the Elite Eight. Enjoy that and let it soak in." That's great.
I mean, that's something a coach would say, right? A seasoned coach. Yeah. So imagine this is a college-age girl on your basketball team. I mean, talk about the leadership there.
Yeah, it's just awesome. Did you get caught up in the whole Kim Mulkey thing, the Washington Post story that has a lot of, I didn't read the story, but, and then, of course, all the thing that went in there. I don't know if the best line I read, though, when someone said, Kim Mulkey drew up a better defense for the Washington Post than she did for Caitlin Clark. Can't deny the fact.
The thing is that she's pretty familiar with her game, so you would think that. I definitely enjoyed watching Iowa win. I think that Kim Mulkey's a character. I don't know that I have personal affinity for her, but I think that she brings eyeballs to the sport. Mm-hmm. I don't. Sometimes controversial coaches and players and are good for the sport,
Yeah.
And I think that she probably fits in that. But I thought it was interesting that she called it a hit piece prior to reading it.
Right.
Pretty defensive,
Right.
There before you know exactly what's in it. And I thought it was a little disingenuous that she said they only gave her 48 hours, to respond to questions, and she was in the middle of tournament time. And the writer says he's been trying to get a hold of her for 2 years.
Right.
So, I mean, that's a little disingenuous, but you sit on the top of any sport. There are people looking to tear you down.
Mm-hmm.
You sit on the top of any sport, and your coaching methods and your personal life come under a microscope for good or for bad. And that's kind of part of what you signed up for.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't think you can be shocked when articles are written about you like this.
David Moulton, those people are always trying to hit pieces about him. He's getting out there, but they can't catch him. He's like the Midnight Rider, just gone like that. But good evening, David. How you doing?
They just figure I'm so far down already, there's no sense piling on.
Down there with me, that's Val. Yeah, David, so good to talk to you. We're having a really interesting conversation about two things. One, about whether there's some kind of uptick in Gainesville that we're detecting, Ali and I. And secondly, how can you not talk about Caitlin Clark? I mean, I know you on your show. I know you showed it up with the women's game and the phenomenal numbers they put up there. Incredible. And then I want to play a bite for you. I've been waiting to play the whole bite. It's a 90-second bite from Fienbaum show today they sent me. It's Graham Mertz, and I wanted to get your take on it. So first, respond to the women's basketball stuff, and then we'll get on the idea about talking about the other stuff.
Well, I'm a huge women's basketball fan. I'm probably one of the few male sportscasters who was a proponent of women's sports and women's basketball long before it's now become trendy. That has a very special place in my heart. It's where I cut my teeth in play-by-play. I was lucky enough my alma mater won a national title, and I was broadcasting their games nearly 40 years ago. So it holds a special place with me. This is a phenomenon the likes of which, Ali, I don't think we've ever seen in women's team sports. I mean, Serena was the Williams sisters, and then Serena, they had a little something going, and they clearly brought eyeballs and people to the screen who hadn't, but not like this. I mean, for goodness sakes, these games are doing 4 and 5 times the viewership than they've routinely done before. I mean, if Iowa and South Carolina managed to win Friday, that game Sunday afternoon on ABC may beat the men's Final Four. I mean, it may beat the men's championship game. Okay. I mean, just straight up may beat it. And the only football games last year, I mean, I'm sure you guys went over this. The only college football regular season game that had more viewership was Ohio State, Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
The only conference championship game that had more viewership was the SEC championship game. It outrated Thursday Night Football all season long on Amazon. There's only been one NCAA men's game this year that has outrated it, and that was Sunday, late afternoon, early evening, Duke NC State, which did 15 million. I mean, this is Monday night on cable. I mean, it outrated it outrated the NBA Finals. It outrated every NBA game but one last year. It outrated the entire World Series. I mean, this is remarkable. She's a phenomenon, and what I'm hopeful of is that, much like Magic and Larry 45 years ago, people followed them to the NBA.
Right.
And they gave the NBA a chance when they weren't watching the NBA.
Yeah.
And obviously we know what happened. And clearly people have not tuned in the WNBA in large numbers in 25 years. And because of her, will they now give the WNBA a shot?
Yeah.
And Ali, for what it's worth, we asked our viewership, probably for listenership, for 2 days. First off, we asked, were you going to watch on Monday? And our audience was 71-29. They were going to watch. Okay. Then we asked after the game, what was your impression of the product? And there was very little negative.
Yeah.
I mean, people were basically saying, listen, I haven't watched in a while, or I have never watched before, and I got to admit, I liked it. It was like getting them to go to this restaurant, try it, and they're like, wow, I liked it. Well, you would think then, aren't they going to come back for more?
For seconds, right? I mean, you would think that's what Buddy and I were talking about at the very beginning of the show, was that I was watching social media during the game, and all of the comments are positive, and it's people saying like, wow, the quality of basketball is much higher than I expected, or this is so much more fun than I expected, or this is so much more entertaining or interesting, or whatever. And it was interesting to watch all of, I guess, new fans kind of discover the sport in real time.
Well, there are a lot of old ones too saying, "My gosh, that woman can play basketball." And Angel Reese, what's her last name? I forget. Is also a good player. Really good fun to watch. But she would play development role, and everything is set up for it. The way Caitlin plays the game, and the quote I just read to you, Ali, about her perspective, which is unbelievable for a kid of her age. Like you said, it sounds like something a coach would say, and how she plays the game with such gusto in all facets of it. She's a terrific passer. In fact, some people say she passes too much. She's an unbelievable shooter. She can shoot the ball from anywhere on the court. She can take the ball to the hole, and she can play a little defense. I mean, so I don't know, David, do I ask this question, and I'll switch gears to something else, and that is, why did this happen? Why did this happen? Why did America, other than the excellence we just talked about, why did America fall in love with these two players, and now suddenly discovered how much fun women's basketball is? And not only I was saying, well, there's a couple things. First of all, they didn't leave in the transfer portal. They stayed around, and you can follow a narrative a little bit. So we knew about Caitlin Clark already. That helped a little bit. But your opinion, David, just give me your overview. Why has this happened?
Well, two things. First off, women's college basketball has gotten a lot more exposure post-pandemic than it was getting beforehand. And let's face it, no woman's ever played the game like her. Right. I mean, people want to compare her to Steph. She reminds me a lot of Trae Young. When Trae was at Oklahoma, remember, he was the one who was the first guy that I remember who came down and started shooting logo threes and making them. And you're like, oh, well, I guess that's 35 feet. It's not a bad shot. I mean, so we've never seen a woman play like this before. I mean, and when legends in women's basketball are fawning over her, like Lisa Leslie, then maybe this isn't false hype from a bunch of media people who don't know what they're talking about. I mean, if Lisa Leslie says without question she should be on the Olympic team, then okay. But also it's entertaining. If you think about it, she's Steph, and she's got the competitiveness of, Larry Bird also, which, from a certain generation people liked. I mean, I heard a very funny description of her in which they said she passes like Jason Kidd, she shoots like Steph Curry, and she whines like Luka Doncic. Okay, so she's got it all going for her.
All going on.
Right. So, there's a lot to like there. It's entertaining. Let's face it. We want to be entertained.
We do.
It's ultimately, and I know people hate when I say this, but it's a TV show. That's really it's a big money TV show. And this is an entertaining product. And for the longest time, especially men, but the entire audience would watch it and decide this is not an entertaining product. I don't want to spend time on this anymore. And lately, if you've sampled the WNBA in the last 3 years, it looks very different than how you used to watch women's basketball. It's the same with women's college basketball. The skill level now is so much better. It's not, guys. It's not. It's never going to be. It's never going to be played above the rim. Okay. They're not going to hang in the air as long. It's not. It's going to be a different game, but it's played so much better now where you watch it and you go, it's a good product. I can spend 2 hours on this.
Yeah.
And I asked Allie what she felt like as a woman and one mother of 4 daughters. How enlightening and promising is something like this to her? Let you repeat, Allie, but it's a revelation. It's really something. I mean, this what's happened is I don't want to say revolution, but boy, I tell you, something's happening here. You can feel it. It's real.
Yeah, and and as David said, the product is different, but the product is good. And I think women, I think that there's sometimes this assumption that women want to do it exactly like the men do because that's what's going to make it popular. And I think that what we're seeing with women's basketball in college right now is they're doing it their way and owning it, and that's what's becoming popular. And honestly, as a parent, that's the way you want to see it, right? I don't want to tell my kids play basketball like the boys and then people want to watch you on TV. I want to tell them play basketball the best that you are capable of doing, and people are going to want to watch it on TV. And that's what's happening. And I think over like the bigger picture, that's a pretty cool message.
Here we are. We have not even mentioned anything about the men's Final Four. We're 40 minutes into the show, and there are some good stories there too, as well. And they're going to be fun, but it will probably be outdrawn. None better than DJ Burns and NC State. I mean, how could you not love that? Charles Barkley-esque almost, and how he plays the game, and the fact that he is what does his coach call him? A grizzly bear with ballerina feet or something like that, and the way he plays and how dominant he is on the court. And to what did they lose? 14 or 15 games in NC State, and here they are playing in the Final Four. It's kind of a remarkable story, but right now they can't get ahead of the girls. The most popular story is certainly going to be the Final Four of the women. Your reaction and response to that, and also, what do you think of DJ Burns? Let's start with you, David.
Well, first off, I love any athlete who can do what they do and smile while doing it. I mean, he's got a great smile, and you're right. I mean, he's like a manatee with ballerina feet. I mean, he's lovable. He just is, even though he's putting 24 and 12 up on your team and beating you, but he's lovable while doing it. So it's a great story. I mean, the coach is going to get fired, and they win 9 elimination games in a row. And, we'll talk about this for a generation, whether they win another game or not. UConn trying to do what no one's done since the Gators of 06 and 07, trying to repeat. By the way, have you heard about the problems they're having tonight?
Yeah, airplanes.
They can't get a plane to take them. They're still stuck in Connecticut. Reportedly, they're not going to leave till midnight or 1 a.m. Eastern, and they're going to arrive basically, for breakfast in Phoenix tomorrow morning. Alabama got there yesterday afternoon. So we'll see if it affects UConn. But, I mean, 2 1s, a 4, and an 11 in the men's Final Four, 2 1s and 2 3s in the women's Final Four. It's a little different.
Yeah. Go ahead, Allie, your take on Burns.
Does DJ Burns remind you a little bit of Big Baby?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he's bigger, though.
But that's just what I look at. Like, I feel like Big Baby was the same way. Like that big, giant smile that you could see as he ran all the way down the court. He was fun to watch. He was, huge, right? Big guy. I don't know. That's always, and I guess that probably dates me because that's,
and what took LSU to the Final Four. Yeah, no, it's a great
It was kind of an improbable thing when that happened, and I don't know. That's always what I think about when I see DJ Burns.
I remember how fat Barkley was when he came out. They called the mound of rebound and all that stuff. But this kid's different. Barkley was never this physical. Oh my gosh, he's a banger.
I was listening to somebody who's an NFL guy said, do you think an NFL team would draft him in like the 7th round and just hold on to his rights because they said, wouldn't he make a great offensive tackle? Think about it. He's big, he's strong, he's got great feet. Okay, could he and Antonio Gates, I don't think played football in college at San Diego State. I think he just played hoop. And then obviously look what happened. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. So, I just wonder if somebody looks at DJ there and says, he'd be a hell of an offensive lineman if this basketball thing doesn't work out.
Well, there has been some talk about it, and he responded to it today, as a matter of fact, about playing in the NFL. He says, my quote was, I'd probably pursue some other options with basketball first, but I'm not all that, and I'm not a closed-minded person, so he didn't leave it out. But you're right. Someone like that, as light as is on his feet, I mean, what kind of pass rusher could he be if he was, as quick as he is? I don't know. And he's physical. He's a physical guy. So, all right, speaking of which, by the way, and I promised you guys I wouldn't keep you long, and I don't want to keep you over tonight, but there's a couple of things I got to get to. One of them is talking about, here's a question for you. Which team is more likely to pull the upset? NC State or Alabama, and why?
That's a great question.
I would say NC State only because I think Purdue's more vulnerable than UConn.
Because of why? Edie gets fouled a lot or what?
Well, I just think that UConn's the best team, so therefore they're the toughest team to beat. Mm-hmm. So, I think we're destined for Purdue UConn on Monday, but if you're asking me, I would say NC State more likely to pull the upset. They're a 9.5-point dog. Alabama, how about this? Alabama, top 10 basically all year. Preseason pick to win the SEC, an 11.5-point underdog.
Well, and by the way, had to hit 10 threes in the second half to win that last game. 10 threes in the second half. My gosh. And, I got to give Nate Oates all his credit. He has really a team that Florida beat, and and I didn't think was that good. It's really gotten good in the postseason and impressed. I'm going to go with the NC State here. Ali?
Yeah. That's kind of what I think too, but I think exactly what David said is correct. It's honestly more about UConn and Purdue than it is about Alabama and NC State. I know that Purdue is kind of playing a little bit of this Cinderella, like trying to pull off this, big turnaround to win an NCAA tournament. But UConn is so good and so tested. And not that Alabama's not a good team. Alabama is a very good team, but I just trust UConn more than I trust Purdue.
I'm looking forward to that matchup between Edie and Burns. I can't imagine how this 7'4" guy and the guy's 7'4" wide, And,
it's funny. I don't think in the first half that either coach will put either guy on the other. I think, and vice versa, though, because I think they're worried that each guy will get the other in foul trouble. So I actually think in the first half, they're going to try to protect them from each other. And I think maybe only down the stretch in the final 10 minutes will they put them on each other.
Good point.
Yeah, Burns' quickness could give Edie problems.
Yes, I agree. Certainly the height of Edie, 7'4".
Well, sure, can give everybody problems, and his strength. And even though DJ's a big guy, he ain't Zach Edey big.
True.
Edie's got. Think about it. Edie's got over 6 inches on DJ. That's remarkable.
It is. It is amazing. So, well, guys, let me do this. If it's okay with you, I want to just do this commercial real quick, and then I have a bite that I've been saving. And for you guys to hear and to get your response. I know, David, you're going to call it pie in the sky and all that sort of stuff. But the bottom line is, Dad, we've heard part of it. Ali heard part of it already. And I'd like you to hear the whole bite and let's talk about the guy and see where that leads us, if anywhere. And again, we can't tell much, about can't tell much about what's going on there with in spring ball with just bites. But what else do we have to go? Like I said, they said what's in front of us. What do we have to go on? So we'll hear the bite and we'll get a response from you. First, I just want to tell you about TitanMRI.com. TitanMRI.com. They're located now in North Central Florida in Gainesville, and they have a special thing for you if you're busy. You can't get your MRIs and you have a hard time getting there. They'll make you a special schedule. You can actually get your MRI at night or on the weekends, and they like to say they really care about their customer experience, because if you've had an MRI, you know claustrophobia is an issue when you get in one of those things and you think, oh man, how long is this going to go on? But they've taken special care to get larger bores for their MRI, and they get more room, and they try to deal with the claustrophobia situation. So, and by the way, if your insurance is giving you a problem, no problem. Cash or card, they'll take you there. It's not that expensive. I encourage you, if you're looking for an MRI and you're in the area of Ocala, Gainesville, Lake City, check out Titan MRI, TitanMRI.com, sponsor of this program. Guys, here is your starting quarterback for next year, who's back for more. And this is how he looked and how he sounded today on the Paul Finebaum show. Ali, you've heard part of the first. I want to get both your responses.
Nowadays, everybody always says, like, prove the haters wrong. And honestly, the theme for this team is prove each other right. I mean, we know what we got to do. We all want to win. Everybody in this building wants to win. So for us, we're out here, we know what people are saying, but we're here to prove each other right. We're here to strive together to go win. And that's hands down 24/7. That's what we're doing. I mean, I think on a team, especially in college football, I mean, the camaraderie you have with your brothers, with the coaches, and that trust is everything. And that's what, when you get in the game in the fourth quarter down 10, that's what's going to pull you through to go get it right.
Good.
Oh, buddy, you know I'm the wrong guy to ask.
Mm-hmm.
You know I don't buy anything that happens between, I just don't. The only thing that counts before August 31st is injuries. Honestly, I don't. Listen, he proved last year he's a good to very good quarterback. He's clearly a leader, and he's a great guy to hand the ball off, so to speak, to the 5-star for the 2 to 3 years that follows. Okay, Florida. If Florida was a set at quarterback at 10 other positions, they'd be a top 10 program. Yeah. So, I mean, Mertz is not the problem here. I had huge doubts and question marks about him a year ago this time. Shut me up, prove me wrong. Okay, now I'm worried about the guys around him.
Okay, fair enough. I think the missing pieces are little comments and questions and things we're hearing other players say about other players and the way they say it and the people who are saying it. And like we talked about earlier, Billy Gonzalez don't never say nothing about anybody that's that flattering ever. And I've known him a long time. And he came out apparently in his press conference this week and said, Graham Mertz is one of the best football players I've ever been around. So this counts for a little something. I'm just looking for a little something. Ali, you heard part of the bite earlier. You heard the whole bite now. Assess what you heard and tell me if you see anything there that looks fresh and new and promising.
I mean, he says all the right things. I think he's said all the right things since he's gotten here. And I think that he's proven that he's a better leader and a better player than he was billed as when he came to us from Wisconsin. But I think that David is right. He's got to get some other people on the field that are going to overachieve as well for Florida to have some success. But these are the things you want to hear from your quarterback, particularly in the spring, right? This is the type of leader you need for the young guys that are coming in. You want them bought in. You want them to believe in each other. You want them to have that camaraderie. All of these things are positive, and they'll still be positive even if they don't win in the fall. But let's be clear, the only thing that actually matters is whether or not they win in the fall.
Okay, fair enough. I'm not trying to coax any words out of either one of his mouth. I ask you this both, and then we'll switch subject and let you get out of here. Has there been any change for you in terms of Billy Napier and his coaching and his attitude and whatever in the last 2 to 3 weeks, or if that matter, 2 to 3 months, that makes you feel anywhere different, maybe worse, better, more promising, less? I know we can't gauge it until they get on the field and start blocking and tackling or whatever, but this is all we have right now. We don't have that. So having said that, given the information, Ali, you are a voracious reader. You read everything. You have people on your show that talk about what they see and hear. Has there been anything at all that influenced you, good or bad, over the last couple of weeks?
I mean, not a whole lot. I do feel like he's been more personable in the times that he has spoken with the media, maybe a little bit more candid. And hopefully that's somebody in his ear saying, endear them to you. This is part of the job too. Make them like you, make them root for you. And I don't think that, I think Billy Napier is a great guy. I think that he is a good leader of young men. And I don't think that he is necessarily very quiet with the media because he hates us or he's scared of us or anything like that. I think he's a pretty reserved guy, just in general. I think that's his personality. So I think it's more of a stepping outside of his wheelhouse to really share much with us. But I think it's important for him to do that. And I think he has done that a little bit this spring, right? But we'll see. When the going gets tough, we'll see.
Did you hear, David, that he called a group together, a small group, and had off-the-record session for a few minutes with him over the weekend?
Yeah, I got to be honest. I think it's too late. He's now at the point where he just needs to win games. This needed to be done last year when Ali was jumping up and down and giving public relations lessons as to what Florida needed to be doing. I think it's now to the point in which he just has to win games. He can have as many breakfasts, lunches, and dinners and off-the-record stuff that he wants. It's now to the point where he's just got to win games, in my opinion. And I don't think he's had a great offseason. I don't like the fact he's still calling plays. I don't think he got enough out of the transfer portal, to be honest with you. They need a lot more than they've gotten, in my opinion. And I hope that, they can still win 7 to 9 games. They can. Ali documented it last year. They did little things badly last year. They lost games they should have won. In theory, that can be tightened up, and they could flip that around. And last year's season easily could have been 8 wins, okay, just by doing the little things. And so they could do that again this year. The roster's not good enough for me. I think he's got way too much on his plate, and I need to see more. I hope he wins enough games this year so that he can deliver more.
Okay. Fair enough. Sounds good to me. Guys, great job. I promise I wouldn't keep you up all night tonight, so I'll let you go and catch up to you next week. Thank you for being on the program, Ali, tonight. Good luck to all your things you got going on.
Thank
you got?
you.
A bazaar? Or what are you doing? Some kind
I got a carnival on Friday. Our school carnival
Friday.
that I am in charge of, and silent auction, all different things.
Yeah.
So I'm alive at 10 o'clock on Friday night. It'll be a good thing.
You've got nothing else to do. What the heck? Only 2 sets of twins.
Nothing else to do, right? Running a business, right?
Yeah.
A husband, 4 kids, got nothing going on.
Make Eric do a little work for a change.
Right?
Thank you, Ali. And David, good to tell folks, by the way, where they can get you again for those who are the David Moulton fans.
All 4 of you, millerandmoulton.com. Check it out.
Yeah, he does a great job every morning. And appreciate it. Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend. All right, we'll talk to you next week. All right, David, the great David Moulton and the great Ali, almost said McBeal. Remember that show? Ali Peek Wilbur. So appreciate it very much. And it's good to have a little balance on the show. We shouldn't all be looking through the orange and blue glasses at everything, and I think David does bring that to us. I said for you folks earlier, I was on the show with Shane on Tuesday morning. I made a just offhand comment about Shane was asking me, well, how are things going? What do you think of the baseball team? What do you think of the softball team? And I said, well, quite frankly, I'm a little tired of the baseball team. By the way, they won over Florida A&M tonight. And I said, I'm tired of them losing those midweek games, and it's not good. I was just watching South Carolina get beat by Georgia Southern tonight, by the way. And I said, as a former player there and a letterman, I take pride in the program. I think it matters. I know you say, Shane says, it doesn't matter. I don't care who they lose to, and I know it's not like football. But the fact is, it does matter, and I wish they wouldn't lose those games. But apparently there's a formula to winning getting to Omaha and winning. And one of them is using your freshman pitchers as Billy as coach has done, and Sully, and it's working for him. And then I said something about the softball team, and I know if Dan Bond's there, he follows it closely. And our comment was basically that if the softball team is going to be a Final Four team, it's not what I said. They need to get busy, getting busy winning some games, not losing these games. And boy, did I get crawled on by everybody. Oh my gosh, they got called on for saying, "Oh my gosh, buddy, you should be ashamed of yourself." They got a great team. They won all these games. They only lost a few series, and you're out of touch. Oh, maybe I am. I admit I don't watch every softball game. Sorry, I can't do that. I don't have enough hours in the day. But anyway, I'm willing to be wrong, and so we'll see how that turns out. But I can tell you what I'm right about. I'm right about this. I'm right about the people who've been sponsoring our show for a long time, and they deserve a lot of kudos. And I wish you would participate in some of their things they're doing, like their clinical trials. So important to our health. We should remember this, that these people are watching out for our health and for so many different things, the kind of medications you can take, and we don't know what to take. My gosh, if you're in medications like I am, you almost need a professor to teach you what's good and what's not. Anyway, the bottom line is Rinstar Medical Research is a special group of people. They want you to know that clinical trials exist to bring new therapies to the public safely. And the clinical trials would not exist without the commitment of you, the volunteer. If you would be willing to participate in these clinical trials, you might receive study-related medications and procedures at no charge to you or your insurance. You might gain access to new investigational medications or devices that are not otherwise available, and you could also receive compensation for your time and travel. More importantly, that information goes to, that data goes to other firms, other places, biochemical companies, what have you, to take care of what we need for in our community in terms of medication. So they're a research site, Rinstar, dedicated to bringing new opportunities to participate in medical science to our local community. An important part of that commitment is helping answer your questions about volunteering for a clinical trial. Please explore the FAQ section of the website on Rinstar for many answers to the questions you may have. That's Rinstar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. All right, thank you tonight for participating in the program, for being here, and it was an interesting discussion. We just can't stop talking about Caitlin Clark and women's basketball. We're going to see some great basketball this weekend. What a weekend, I'm telling you, it's going to be interesting. And by the way, next week is my favorite event, the Masters. Sorry, folks, when the Masters comes, that takes precedence for me over everything. Now, we'll be heading back up to Gainesville for the orange and blue game during that time. But I'll be having my TV on all day and all night for the duration. I love me some Masters, and I don't want to go back up there now again. I've been to like 28, 29 of them. But I'll be watching. I have no idea yet who's going to win it. I've been doing some research and reading. I'm sure Shane and I will talk about that too morning, as well as other things. So anyway, just hope you enjoyed the program about the upticks in Gainesville. I'm not so sure there isn't one. I think there is something going on there. When I'm hearing Devin Moore talking about being healthy and ready to go, and he had an interception in the first scrimmage. He could be an outstanding cornerback. I'm hearing people like Billy Gonzalez talk about Graham Mertz is one of the best football players he's ever seen. You might say, well, it's just a coach talking. No, it's not. If you know Billy Gonzalez, like some others do, he's not something he throws around like that. I recommend to you Franz Beard's column, which is really well done today, talking about the wide receivers. Here's some of the things he says. He says, now in the second of his third stint as Florida's wide receivers coach, for Dan Mullen and Urban Meyer, Gonzalez has a room full of talented, fast receivers, easily the fastest group assembled in Billy Napier's time on the job. Pair these guys with the experience and skills of quarterback Graham Mertz, and there is reason to believe Florida's offense could be more explosive than any time in the last 3 seasons. Granted, it wasn't that great, but still. Speed's a wonderful thing, Franz writes, and these guys have it. Trey Wilson can make you as a make or miss move. His role in the offense will expand this year. It means more downfield routes. If you heard Shane Matthews just say, at least throw 8 bombs a game, throw it deep. He says Trey Wilson's explosive, super explosive. He says Khalil Jackson is deceptively fast. A freshman, Tank Hawkins, TJ Abrams are super fast. The redshirt freshman, Aiden Mizell, might be every bit as fast as them. Marcus Burke is making plays both outside and in the slot during the spring, and Jaquavion Frazier is ready to get on the field and make plays. So there's a guy named Shamir DK. I hope I said it right. He's a guy from transfers from Wisconsin before they played with Mertz, who 2 seasons ago caught 47 passes from Mertz. They were teammates together in the Big Ten. Billy Gonzalez says they've kind of hooked up and they've got that rhythm back now. So there's some good spin on that. We'll see. I don't think it's just all spin. So it's true. And we're looking for something to hang our head on, right, folks? Well, we're going to do our best to dig it out for you these next couple of weeks. Tomorrow night, we got the Orange and Blue Bloods here. It'll be Ben and Franz and Lauren. We invite you to join us then. We'll have more stuff for you. We got a show, Aaron and Rob here. I think it's tomorrow, next day on his show, SEC show about Texas being a new member of the SEC. And we'll try to catch that. Check Rob out every morning on these channels. And got a pretty good producer named Martin there, too. So thanks, folks, for listening. Thanks for watching. We're back at you tomorrow night on The Buddy Martin Show.